Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to Versus Stars podcast. All my loyal listeners, thank you for continued support. And remember, click the subscribe button, everybody. It's an amazing episode because Hayley Sales boards the mothership. She's a famous singer and actress. She now appears in Corrective Measures with Bruce Willis. Come aboard as we go traversing the stars. Hello, Miss Sales. Thank you so much for coming to Versus Stars podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's fun to be here.
It's totally my pleasure. So I always start off with the question of inspiration. So inspired your love of
Okay.
acting and who your earliest influences.
Ooh. As far as acting goes, I was madly in love with Lucille Ball and from I Love Lucy. And so it went from her to Meryl Streep, Julia Roberts, like every all the incredible, there's so many incredible actors out there. I came in just loving it. I was before I knew it was a thing you could do as a career. I was that little girl that would like throw on my older brother's clothes and pretend I was like a warrior and then go change and put on a dragon costume. And like I just love telling stories. I didn't know it could be a job. Now I pinch myself. I'm like, really? I get to do this for a living? So
Now the real question. So you're gonna pick your baby. Do you like love acting or music first?
don't make me do that. That's such a hard one because again, circling back, before I knew it was a career, I didn't see a distinction. I was in love with the 1940s musicals, like it all blended together for me. I realized there was a distinction as I matured. I I would have to choose music. And the
Mm.
only reason I say that is because I write my songs.
Mm.
And so in that way it's not just like you show up in your piece of someone's puzzle, you're like painting the whole stratosphere. When you're a musician, like you write the songs, I produce my music, and then you get to be on stage. And to me, I love doing film and I love doing television. It's a very different thing though than being on stage. And there's something you just cannot find anywhere other than a stage. You know what I mean? Like it's just the people. For me, I'm super self-conscious and aware and like analytical, and I criticize myself.
Yep.
And the only time that doesn't happen is when I'm performing for an audience because I just lose myself. So hard question. Ask me tomorrow, it might be different, but at least as of right now.
Well, you said because you write the music and so you're doing the writing and the singing, but that doesn't
Yeah.
mean you can't write the script and direct as well as
Well,
act.
you know what? It's so funny. I've actually been working on the script. Now,
Ooh.
it might take me 30 years to do anything with it, but I have been thinking about that. I'm like, it's kind of silly. I'm so obsessed with films that I haven't dabbled my feet in that world. So we'll see. Circle back to me in 30 years and maybe I'll have written some screenplays, put them out.
Well, I feel like we gotta explore this. So, is the script part musical? Is it like what kind of script is
It
this?
it the current one that I'm exploring is,
Ooh.
and it's I'd say it's semi autobiographical but fictionalized. So it's
Oh.
not your musical like you break into song on the street and start dancing, which I love my La La Lands, but this one's more of a about a musician. So there's
Hmm.
music incorporated in it. It's a timepiece, yeah, a period piece. I mean, time. It's a time. Where's my brain today? I have no. It's stuck 20 minutes ago. But yeah, so we'll see.
See, I feel like when this
Awesome.
script is performed at the Oscars, like during the musical number, I'm gonna be like, she first mentioned it on my show.
It's
Mention it
true.
when.
I've never talked about it before. So there you go. You would be the premier of the idea.
I have a scoop.
Yes, you do.
So,
Exactly.
as an artist and a singer, is there a way that these two art forms intersect for you?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they feed each other pretty constantly. I feel like acting is one kind of a thing where in some ways it's taught me to be more aware and like observe
Mm.
people and really you dive into other people's stories and other people's worlds, and in some ways it's like an investigation of the human experience.
Mm.
And so that's only helped with performing and with music because instead of just singing a song, you are living the song. And
Mm.
so they feed back and forth. And music is, I mean, music to me is like it's my main language. So it just kind of, I find but this is actually funny. I was working on a movie a week or two ago, and there's a really intense scene for me where I had to just be losing it on camera. And of course, it was outside in the middle of a city, and everybody's watching you, including everybody in the city. So I found I was afraid of messing up. And that's like the kiss of death, at least to me, is when once you start
Mhm.
analyzing yourself. And I went and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go listen to some music. So I had my little headphones in, was listening to some Braveheart and Titanic soundtrack music, and literally would just throw my earbuds and then run into the scene. And to me, the music was, I mean, if you think about watching a film,
Mm.
music is so important to how you feel watching it and like how drawn in you are to the character. And so I started to use it even while I'm acting. It's pretty fun.
So how often are you acting while singing? That because I imagine at the
Hmm.
moment you're not often as happy or in love or whatever as your songs seem to portray at that moment.
Yeah, it's true. I find, I mean, it's hard to say because for me, at least the way I view acting, I don't want it to be put on. Like I have to dig deep to genuinely have whatever is coming out come from that
Mm.
place. But yeah, so for songs, my heart is currently not shattered on the floor, but I have a lot of those songs because I'll draw back on that experience. And so through the tools with acting, you basically explode the little bubbles of memory into an experience that you're currently able to waddle around in and perform on stage. So it actually, a lot of the time, because it
Mm.
takes you out of, again, the self-critiquing, self-analyzing mode, which we all fall into, especially me.
Well,
I'm really good at that. That's my main skill, is second guessing myself.
That's a talent right there on its own, isn't it?
There you go, right? I'm a pro.
So there's a lot of people who pursue acting. Very few succeed. There's a lot of people who pursue music. Very few people succeed. So, what
Mhm.
made you think to yourself, "I'm going to go for both and be successful at both of these"?
I think I started so young, I didn't think twice about it. Like there's a beautiful boldness to starting a career young because you're just like, the world is amazing, and you're so, so not aware of how hard it actually is, like to make it in any of these professions. Uh, so to me, it was, I think if I'd found anything I loved more, I probably would have done it, but I just couldn't. Like even at every turn when I tried to talk myself out of it, I couldn't because it's the way I live. And so any success that comes, I'm pretty damn grateful for because I do know how hard it is. And I mean, I've been in the place where I went to like 2 years of auditions once, none. It happens, and
Mm,
I think it's all about pushing past the walls because they happen to everybody.
mm,
And the story I told myself to kind of twist the narrative so I didn't get depressed or lose faith in what I love to do was I think of it like a movie or like, you know, clearly I'm a film buff and obsessed with stories. So I'd be like, you're at this point in the story, and in 5 pages, that person's going to walk through the door and everything's going to change. So, yes, I know. That's literally the way I would not retwist, but twist the narrative and
mm.
not get jaded.
Well, hey, if it works, and apparently it has, like I said, you're pursuing successfully two careers. You're like, nah, one career is for lazy people. I'm taking on two.
Well, I also am really bad at relaxing, another pro skill of mine. And I find that I'm most productive when I'm busy. And so, in some ways, they balance each other out. I mean, it's not always the case. When you're on tour and you get a soft take, you're like, shit, oh my God, I don't have time to do this. But it balances out, at least for now. And then we'll see how it goes.
It's almost hard to believe someone who has problems relaxing also has problems with analyzing themselves too much. You think it's
Oh,
amazing they go hand in hand that way.
think so. Yeah, I think I've got some skill sets on both of those other professions.
That goes right on the resume. Analyze myself all
Exactly.
the time.
Yep, exactly. Cannot relax. Check. I'm learning. I'm trying to meditate. I've been trying to get better at it because I've learned that it's just I find that sometimes you get so swept up in what is that you can't imagine what will be or what could
Mm.
be. And being a worrywart, you just get bogged down and you limit yourself from seeing opportunities. So I've been trying. I'm really bad at it and I've worked too hard at it, but I'm trying to do it. I'll get there again. 30 years, check back.
I hopefully I'll be on and I can do that. The
I know
30 years.
I'll be a little Buddha in the Himalayan mountains or something by then with screenplay out. Yeah.
No, I heard it. I heard an interesting story about you. And once
Mm-hmm.
again, if you don't want to discuss it, let me know. But I heard the story, so I'm gonna
Okay.
ask it. So, one thing I heard was that you, growing up, had an issue with eating disorder, and that
Yeah.
actually had damaged your voice.
Mm-hmm.
So, for the listeners who may be struggling with that themselves, or may be struggling with
Yeah.
anything, because a struggle maybe is a struggle. Um,
Struggle is a struggle.
so
Yeah.
how did you? I don't know the right word is overcome, but how did you overcome that? Like, what kind of supports and issues how did you deal with it?
Yeah. Well, I was so young and impressionable when I moved to LA. I was just 16 and I moved by myself. And I had always been insecure. I was actually a festively plump child, my brothers like to call me. Like I had curves, I grew up really fast too. I looked 19 at 10 and it just I was predisposed to someone's input when a casting director told me to lose some weight. And I was
Oh.
only 120 pounds at the time, 5'7". And being a control freak was like, okay, I can manhandle my body into this and stop eating. And didn't take very long for the universe to be like, no, stop, abort mission. What are you doing? I woke up one day. I was actually in or not Nashville, in Vegas, and Wynn Casinos was interested in giving me this massive residency to do Judy Garland impersonation. And woke up and had this burning in my throat and tried to talk, and it was gone. Like the thing I identified with most
Mm.
had just it was like the sea witch just took it away overnight from Little Mermaid, and I lost it. Like I lost all sense of identity. I couldn't even then stop my eating disorder, and it took my older brother actually the doctor, and I remember him at one point being like, you have the option to get your voice back or you're not going to get it back. One, two, if you keep not eating, when you hit 30, all bets are off as far as your weight. So he actually used the tool, like my own
Mm.
insecurity, to guide me into slowly taking steps back, and really studying nutrition. And really, I got really into kickboxing and surfing and running and all. So I tried to find healthy ways to do it.
Mm.
Um, but I would say at least for myself, I think an eating disorder is an addiction and I might be in remission, but I still consciously have to, when I look in the mirror, say, you're beautiful. Cause I look and I'm
Mm.
like, man, I still need to lose 20 pounds. I'm 120 right now. Again, so it's something I think that if I could rewind, I would really, really want to inspire someone to not develop it in the first place. And if they do, as quickly as possible to pivot to realizing, oh my gosh, my body's this beautiful tool. And some bodies, there's no amount of starving yourself that you can do to
Mm.
look like Cameron Diaz. And that's totally fine for Cameron Diaz to look like her, but there's also a whole other type of beauty and bodies that are out there. Um, and so now, like, yeah, the way I think I cope with it is really, really trying to, like, I'll talk to my like heart and like little, like when I get in modes that aren't healthy, I'll be like, look at that little beautiful thing that's beating. And I'll have to identify parts of myself as these beautiful, cute entities so that I remember to love myself. But yeah, I lost my voice for a whole year. It was acid reflux, and I still my voice, thank God, has been fine since then. And they're little Vikings, my vocal cords, but it's an ongoing thing. Yeah,
So, I mean, I found it interesting that you said that started with someone who mentioned that they thought you should lose weight.
yeah.
Why do you think the industry or the society likes to tear down individuals, but especially women in
Yeah.
that way?
I think a lot of it, I think a lot of the times when it's done, it's not even done with with malintent. I think it's just, this is what the status quo is right now, and you're not fitting into it. But I also think it's a control mechanism in a lot of situations where, to this day, I'll still hear remarks, not even about weight or whatnot. I'm like, that's a control technique. Because if someone pulls your security away from you or your confidence, they're more likely to need you or need your advice. And I mean, I guess that would be a lot of it. And again, I don't know why women, it's so crazy. I sometimes think about the fact that before, a self tape or when you go to set, the women are in the chair for an hour and a half to 2 hours. The men are like, hey, what's up? They're out in 1 second. And I think it just must date back centuries and centuries to, some form of females looking beautiful, like painting themselves to be beautiful and not enough. I do have a huge thing against the whole Instagram fad of this artificial beauty. That's like, it's just insane. I mean, and I kind of get mad when I see these actresses and actors changing themselves so much. Yeah, like I'd like a nose job or to have fat lips. Like, yeah, I mean, don't we all? But it sets these standards for perfection and beauty that are just so unrealistic.
When you see that though, when people get like work done, you can always tell though.
Yeah.
I always find that sometimes it
like,
looks worse than when it started. Right? It's just like you're like, oh, why?
Or you look like a plastic, like you're so symmetrical and perfect that
right.
You've ironed out all the originality to your appearance. But
I can't remember. I think it was I like stand up comedy a lot. So I think
nice.
I think Bill Burr had a bit where he's saying like don't be the hero, let someone else do the plastic surgery and wait till someone perfects it. I'm like, yeah, it's not perfected yet.
No, it's not. Yeah, and it's you like look at someone at this point in their life and then a year later and you're like, oh, so it makes me really respect people like Kate Winslet that are even on the boycotting Botox, bandwagon. I think there's nothing wrong with wanting to preserve your beauty and your youth. And so I wouldn't shame anyone who does it, but I do see the terrible downside for like my nieces or even myself when you go on social media or you watch on the screen and you don't realize there are multiple filters that are removing their pimples like in post. Like our skin is not perfect. So like that is a lot of incredible lighting, makeup, and post. So
and as someone who's now getting officially old, there is pride in aging. It's normal. Just do it.
Totally. It's wisdom, right? Every gray hair, I'm like, that is my withered hair.
Right. I'm trying not to get
step closer.
Yeah, I'm trying not to get in vain. I know eventually my hair's gonna turn gray because I'm in my mid 40s now, and I expect it's gonna happen. But I gotta get myself. I think so. I think I got at least a few more years of colored hair, and that's fine. But when it does become gray, I'm going to go with distinguished, hopefully.
You will look very distinguished. Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like all of us got a few COVID hairs during the whole lockdown. I was like, where'd you come from? Where'd you come from?
Well, was that a productive time? Because I imagine during COVID you weren't able to do the perform. Was that productive?
No, you know what? It started out being very unproductive, and I drank way too much wine, and so like we all did. But once I got over myself and my own, just frustration, because I had actually just in 2017 lost the record to Universal, and had just finished when COVID struck what I considered a record I could actually release. And it was like, no, because everything went back to, we were all in the same boat. That was the one perk of it. But just back to, waiting around and waiting for the moment when I could get my feet back on the ground. But it was incredibly productive because as COVID continued to add on to itself and the months turned into years, I realized, oh, that record wasn't done at all. And I actually went back in the studio because I left LA and I came back to my parents. They have a blueberry farm on Vancouver Island in Canada. And the recording studio where we've done all my albums. And I basically was like, Dad, starting over. And we redid the whole record and new songs, added strings. And this is finally the album I can say if I had one album to release in my life and know I tried, it would be this one.
Very
So
cool.
yeah, it was incredibly productive. Well, it was hard. I did not like lysoling all my vegetables, but we were all in that we were all in that boat.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Oh,
The because
jeez.
especially I have a immune thing with the diabetes. My wife had her thing, so like when food was coming in
Okay.
from outside, the amount of cleaning, and I was like
Oh my
that,
gosh.
and then the bag
Yeah.
had to be thrown in a special way. Then you had to wash your hands. It's like I think
It
we
was
went to
so
like
much.
yeah, I think we went next level crazy and been prep for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Living with my two parents who are both in their 70s, it was like full on lockdown, like Fort Knox
Yeah.
mode, which was a little bit of a
Yeah,
challenge.
I remember I had a spot in my front room where the
Yeah.
mail was like the second stage mail. Like I grabbed the mail from the
Mhm.
box, it goes on the second stage mail where I would let it sit for about 48 hours, make sure no one
Yep.
touched it, and then I could open the mail. I was just like, wow,
Yeah.
especially as a germaphobe myself anyway, you can imagine germaphobe
Oh
plus COVID,
yeah.
how crazy I was
Oh
going.
boy. Oh yeah. Yeah. I think we were all there for a while for sure.
At
But
least it's a common experience we all shared. The year of we went crazy.
exactly. Someday we'll all be like, you remember that one time for
Right.
5 years? No one, the one thing is no one who didn't live through it will know, it's just, it did bond the whole, I wouldn't even say generation. It was like the whole planet together in this experience that we will have that is going to be something we can tell around the campfire.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun
I don't
story.
know.
Remember that year where we never left the house, like at
Remember
all?
that one year where we binge watched way too much television and life went on hold? Yeah, cool. So that happened. I don't count those years, by the way. So you can take off at least 4 years if you're off your age. Totally.
COVID
They
years
don't
don't
count.
count.
They don't count. No, of course not. You're like 25 still.
You know, that would be nice. I could use a redo about 20 years and figure
Right?
out.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So I also read something kind of interesting in your new album. It features a song co-written by Sharon Stone called "Never Before." So,
Mm-hmm.
what was the experience like with Sharon Stone? And because she's an actress and a songwriter, when are we gonna get this duet together where you're starring a movie?
Oh, I know, right? Hopefully soon. It was incredible. And it was my first co-write I had ever done. And I was terrified, shitless, of course. One, because it was my first co-write. And the way I had and have and still do write songs tends to be I can't write a song if I try. I have to
Mm,
just show up and hope it's the right day, the right time, the right moment, because it just otherwise it's shit. So I was very worried that I'd show up and have no idea how to write a song, even after having done two albums by that time. She was so glorious. She was actually one of the main voices in a time when everyone else was saying to quit
mm,
and give up. That was saying, "Oh hell no! That this is exactly the moment when you buckle down and you dig your heels in and you don't give up." And on top of that, she was very inspirational in the terms of really digging into myself and trying to bring out who I am versus trying to fit into a mold that the music industry wanted me to fit into.
mm.
So we wrote Never Before together, uh, as my love of the 1940s music and my romantic nature is something I haven't really showcased yet. And yeah, she's amazing. So hopefully that will be in a movie and we get to do it together someday. We'll manifest that too. That's a great idea, actually.
Well,
Like Sharon,
just dial her up,
crazy, crazy thought. I know there's a strike right now. After that,
and you're welcome. You can do a show together as well. So that'd be
oh,
fantastic.
totally. Yeah, that'll be great. Yeah,
So
yeah, she's amazing.
the interesting thing is, like I said, this is the first time you had a co-written song, right? And you're co-writing
Yeah,
it with Sharon Stone, who is a pretty powerful female in entertainment and actor, entertainment
yeah.
songwriter. So when she's writing a song that's supposed to be your voice, a Hayley Sales song, how comfortable and how did you discuss? This part isn't what I would say, or this isn't me. Like, is it difficult with
Yeah,
someone like that to be like, you know what? I appreciate you writing that part, but
that sucks. You
yeah,
know what? Actually, I she was really easy to collaborate with, surprisingly. Like I think maybe because she is such a phenomenal actor, she was really able to kind of tune into me and into uh my character, shall we say, and she'll see things in me. I'm like, that's not part of me. She's like, oh yes, it is, and so in some ways she was really capable of dialing in, as I said, to my experience, into the song, into the story of the song. And we didn't, I mean, again, it was one of those just transcendent experiences. I have no idea how it went so well. It could have gone so badly. I mean, any co-write could. I just could see that. I could see many ways that could have gone that it didn't. But yeah, and I'd be like, yeah, I don't know if that fits here. And she'd be like, okay. And she'd sit back down and tweak it, and I try and sing it again. And she's like, "Oh, that's it," And she'd be like getting up and then off the couch and coming over to me at the piano, and it was just fun. I mean, she's passionate. She's like a force of nature, which I love. Honestly, I'm like, yes, please more of that in this world.
See, I was wondering where you're going to go with. She's an actor. That's why it worked. I was thinking to myself, was she acting then that she wasn't pissed or something? like was that where you're heading to? She's able to pretend she wasn't going to kill me.
Oh no, fortunately that didn't happen during that session. She was really on point with collaborating and bringing out a part of myself that I might not have done without her help.
So when you're thinking about once again, someone writing with you and your own voice itself, so what makes a song distinctly a Hayley Sales song?
Well, usually they're the ones I write. Because actually, to this day, I've only done a few co-writes, but considering the Sharon song is a Hayley song, and I feel very much that it is in my own skin and my own baby, I would have to say a bold, romantic vulnerability, like a rawness kind of, I mean, as I've been mentioning, incredibly good at being insecure, but I'm also incredibly in terms of romance, or in terms of expressing myself, I'm incredibly bold. Like, on stage, I'm belting as loud as I can, and it's not perfect, and then I love that. So I think, yeah, that's a really good question, but I would say it's a bold romance. It's its own thing. It's the voice leads the way, is what I've learned after not doing that for a long time. I wrote the song thinking it's a cool song, and now I'm like, well, what does my voice want to do? Because that's my main instrument, and that's my love.
That's
The thing
cool.
that yeah. Like, what do you want today, little voice? Okay, we'll go there with that melody. Like, the voice leads the show.
So the name of this album, if I'm correct, is called Till the End.
Yes, it is.
So what's the release date for it?
We don't have one yet.
Oh,
I actually just named it, and my manager is currently speaking to new release partners, labels, and whatnot. So I would imagine fall. It may even be early 2024, considering how slow the world moves in entertainment. But we'll start releasing songs definitely by end of summer. So excited. We're actually still. I finished the record, and of course, because I'm waiting a little while, I'm like, I got another one. So we're actually working on one more over the next 2 weeks.
Oh, very cool.
So maybe it'll be a standalone single. Maybe it'll be on it. Who knows?
So when you're thinking about a new album, right? How do you balance the idea of, on the one hand, wanting to stretch yourself as an artist, but on the other hand, fans' expectations and how fans can be about things? So how do you balance that? What want to do something, either stretch yourself, do something that challenges you, but at the same time, you can't abandon the fan. They'll be like, that's not a Hayley Sales album.
Well, yeah, with this one especially, this was kind of my therapy album. So I tried to, and this was definitely a tears, blood, love, labor of love record,
Yeah.
like to be doing when, again, everyone else was saying give up. And I really just tried to be as transparent as possible in the music, and to make an album that I want to listen to. Because I figured, might lose some fans. It is different. It's very 1940s. It's so boldly romantic. It's so not what's being done right now that it's risky in that factor. But I just tried to make a record I loved, and I figured if I loved it, there would at least be a handful of other people that would love it too. Because I tear my music apart so easily that if I'm okay with it, then someone else will really resonate. And
Well, that makes sense. I mean, like I said, there's gonna be a fan for any type
Yeah.
of music. I mean, I assume it's good. So I mean, if it's good, someone's gonna find it.
Yeah, I hope so. At least
So
the songs on the album are the ones I think are good. Don't need to hear those.
So the other thing I learned when in doing some research on you is that you're actually also a Shakespearean actor as well, which is fantastic. So as someone who loves Shakespeare,
Oh,
I'm an English teacher.
literally
So
right here. It's my Bible.
ooh, very nice.
I've
Oh,
had this since I was 7. It's like
that,
I keep it here, right here.
is that the one with the gold pages and the book and the thread bookmark that's inside?
Oh yeah, it's just
Oh,
like
that's
so
quality.
classic. It's just like I love this thing so much.
Oh,
Like
very cool.
Shakespeare. Oh yes. It was given to me by Santa Claus actually when I was I think 6 years old.
Oh,
And
wow.
I became obsessed. So yeah, but
So,
continue. That's awesome. You like Shakespeare as well.
like I said, English teacher. I
Oh,
teach it.
there you go. Oh,
Yeah,
beautiful.
my students are
You're
going
a
to
hero.
be doing Macbeth. Friday they start Macbeth. So I'm very excited.
Amazing. That's so
Oh,
cool.
thank you so much. So which plays have you performed?
Well, the most kind of a lot of all of them. I mean, I might have just been like chorus girl number one or whoever you want to be, but the most memorable one that I got to be a part of was Romeo and Juliet,
Hmm.
and mainly because of the story behind it, where I mean, I was just obsessed. I was such a little dork. Like I was so romantic that we went to the UK when I was, 10, and I was pissed that my mom didn't don a British accent because I wanted us to fit in perfectly. And we went to his house. I stole a few acorns. I have a
Ooh.
tree. Watch the border patrol's gonna come after me now. But around that same time, I was looking through at that point the newspaper in Portland, Oregon, for auditions, and I saw one for a university production of Romeo and Juliet, seeking just, small roles. And I'm like, I'll go to that. That'd be so cool. And I went and I actually booked Juliet. And I had lied about my age because I was only 12, but I looked 18. And I didn't tell anybody till the day before we opened to a room full of Oxford scholars that I was only 12. So it was profoundly incredible. And I was so in love with that Romeo. It was just ridiculous. I wrote him a book of sonnets that
That's
he
cool.
has, and someday he's like, someday these are coming out. I'm like, oh God, what what are they?
Well,
But
the
yeah,
irony is at 12, you're actually closer to the age of Juliet than the people who they would have
you know
had. So
what?
that makes
It's
sense.
exactly, and it actually worked out great. And the people from Oxford were like, this is so cool. You actually cast age appropriate people. And the director's like, yeah, that was totally intentional. But yeah, there's something about, and I get really sad when I read something recently where someone was saying we should pull Shakespeare from the curriculum because it's not
Oh,
relevant. I'm like, what the seriously?
that's
I'm gonna come over there and slap you for an hour. Like it
it's
is
it's been
so the
alive,
point
right? It's
of,
been around for that
yeah,
long because it is relevant.
because it's so relevant. And we don't want to dumb down our kids. We want to inspire them and like
Yeah.
open their eyes to like his poetry is just it's I mean, clearly I'm a fan, but I am just like you. I'll read it and start crying. It's so beautiful, and
Mm.
yeah, so that's so cool that I didn't know you were a teacher.
Yeah.
You are
The
literally the hero of the planet right now.
I appreciate
So
I do pat
thank
myself on
you.
the back a little bit. Good
Yeah,
job.
just a little pat over there. There you go. Seriously though.
Well, yeah, right now the debate right now in class right now is for Macbeth because of the students that
Okay.
I have. Do they learn Macbeth in the standard Shakespeare, or do we go to the part of the page where it's the modern uh,
Oh.
translated version? And now, so the debate is live between me and the principal, me and some
Oh
other people
no.
on what should be done. I'm thinking I'm sticking with the Shakespeare, and damn it,
Yeah.
I gave them the chance. I gave the students 3 book options. It's their
Okay.
fault if they don't like it, so we're going with the Shakespeare.
I I would agree with you. I'd vote that. It's harder, but it's
Yes.
but it's also one of those things where gosh, if you can just see, if you can hear it spoken
Yeah.
out loud, like it's so important to speak it out loud, right? Because then you hear how it flows off
Yeah.
the tongue, and it's not like da 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 da. It's like actually a conversation when an actor gets to do it. So, I think you made the right choice.
Yeah. I mean, and
That's
over
such a great
time,
play. Oh, that play
yeah,
is just
and over
frightening.
time you do hear, I mean, it's sort of like learning a new language. It does
Yeah,
sort of make sense the more you do it, and then
exactly.
eventually it just kind of, you just kind of get it. over
Yeah, now I
time.
read it and I love it. Like it became easy because I read it so much and wanted to study it and like perform it. But I remember, geez, I wish I could do it now. I'm way stupider than I was when I was a kid. But I could actually just speak in iambic pentameter, and I love to do it. I'd be like spouting off my own probably terrible Shakespeare all the time.
And
But it's because you just absorb it. You
yeah,
absorb so much of it.
and I love teaching Roman Juliet. It's not my favorite play, but it's my favorite to
No,
teach because
yeah, that's cool.
it's so good. And I do tell it to the kids. It's one of the most vulgar. If you actually like think about
Oh,
what they're actually saying,
totally.
of all the plays, like no, trust me,
Yeah,
listen to what they're saying. And I can't really tell
dig
them what they're saying, but I
in.
can kind of like hint it and let them. And I kind of like I usually I taught this at a public school.
Okay,
When I first started teaching, and what I would do is when I got to one of those parts, I'd be like, I just kind of look at it and go, and this is one of those parts.
and
Think about it
think
for
of
a minute.
twice.
Right, and I just pause for a minute, and then you see them like talk to each other, and you see
Like,
the eyes start.
oh,
Yeah, you see the eyes
yeah.
start popping up, and you're like, it's like they didn't.
Oh,
That's not
they
really.
got it.
Are they letting us really learn this? I was like, trust me, people don't know what's really they're really saying. Just go.
Amazing. Just do it. Well, what's your favorite play? What's your favorite? Do
Oh,
you have a favorite one?
it is Macbeth. Macbeth is my
Oh,
favorite
it's so
Shakespearean
good.
play, and I
Yeah.
love it. And like I know I'm gonna be performing some. I always do the scenes some for the kids as well. I like perform a little bit for them.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so like when the witches do their thing, I'm looking for. I have like I put something to be like that cauldron, and I like will do the thing. Yeah,
That's
I
amazing.
nerd out. I'm gonna nerd out totally on Macbeth.
Oh, I nerd out on all of them, so it's fine. I mean, yeah, if you had to ask me, I'd be like, Hamlet, Comedy of Errors, Much Ado. Like, there's just so many that are,
Mm.
yeah.
See,
Yeah, a fellow Shakespeare fan. That makes me so happy. It's
right.
really rare.
Well, the funny thing when I taught Romeo and Juliet, one thing they did not allow was during the fights you couldn't really bring like a fake weapon for them to like sword fight each other because
Yeah,
the sword is violent and blah blah blah. You can't have a weapon in school. So
yeah.
the fun part was I actually so I performed all three parts during the sword fight myself, and I used my fingers like a sword. I
Oh
was
no.
I was jumping around the front of the room with my sword fighting
That's
myself.
hilarious. Well, you know what's funny is I actually, doing Romeo and Juliet, we got to do a bunch of stage combat. We learned a bunch of just
Ooh,
literally to stab yourself. Like, how
yeah,
do you stab yourself and not stab yourself? But one night, they accidentally switched out the prop, or maybe they didn't accidentally do it. But I scraped my, because you're supposed to hold the knife in and then pull it in,
yeah.
and I bled all over this costume from the opera, and it was so real. Everyone in the audience was like, "Oh God, that looks like blood." I'm like,
You're so method.
I really went missing on that one. Yeah. So it is, stage combat's amazing. That's a whole other world. It's so fun. Like, if in another life I'd want to do like fencing and stage combat and stunt work. It's so
so
great.
so you're gonna look for a movie where you get to do some fighting?
Yeah, that'd be fun. I haven't gotten to do it. For some reason, people don't cast me that way, but maybe someday. You never know. At least I'll write myself in at some point in my script.
I
Yeah.
think that'd be absolutely awesome. I mean, everyone wants to
Mhm.
fight have a sword fight in a movie. That'd be wicked fun.
I,
A
well,
Jedi saber. You could be a Jedi. Why not?
there you go. They could see me as that. Natalie Portman, come on, get me in Star Wars. That'd be awesome. Yeah,
So, one movie that you were in recently with we're talking about superpowers and action is Corrective Measures, which was
yeah.
again is it's kind of like an action movie as well. So, how did you get involved in Measures, and what was interesting about it?
Oh, that was really fun. That it's a funny story. So my manager called me. I was like, "Hey, you have a self tape. It's due like now." I'm like, "I'm going to get my first COVID vaccine." And had read all these terrible things about, people feeling like shit after getting the vaccine. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. I'm going to learn this. So I studied everything, did it, went to or I didn't tape it, but I went, got my shot, came back and did it all in one take, like just super fast and got it back, not knowing it was at all important because she never tells me. And got the role the next day and
Ooh.
was dead from the vaccine. Like, I was one of the people that did not feel good. So I was like, yes, this is amazing. But it was a really fun project to work on because the director was so collaborative. He would let us improv a lot
Very
and
cool.
really create our own story. So not just your typical comic book, which are great, movie, but we really got to dig into
Mm,
characters. And I mean, of course, working with Bruce Willis, it breaks my heart to hear what's happened to him since we worked together. But
yeah.
he was one of the best actors I've ever been privileged to work with, and also one of the sweetest humans. I felt like one of his daughters. Like he just took me under his wing and made sure I was comfortable and at ease, and really inspiring.
Now, let me know if you can answer or not, but just let me know. The
Yeah.
issue that Bruce Willis had, was that something that was already becoming apparent during that filming?
You know what? I didn't notice it. Again, I think probably he may have had good days and bad days, but at least when we were working together, I didn't notice it. And that's why when I heard the news, I was so heartbroken.
Mm.
Like he was all there for me. I mean, he would improvise a lot, but we were all doing that. So if
Mm.
that was a sign, I didn't catch on to it. And he was very calm, but that was his character. So he either hit it incredibly well and was such a pro, or it hadn't really taken root yet. But yeah, like people have asked me that. I'm like, did I see anything? Like, no, not really.
Mm.
He was all there. He was really present, and yeah, breaks my
And,
heart.
and there's a lot of stars that film. You had Michael Rooker, Tom
Oh,
Cavanaugh was
he's
in it.
amazing.
Oh
I
yeah.
love Michael Rooker so much. He was just a bundle of joy and laughs to work with. Like constantly cracking me up on set.
That's
Like, you
so.
gotta stop. I'm supposed to be serious. And he'd like just say something else. Like, great guy.
I mean, this, like I said, there's so many cool people. And friend of the show, Daniel Cudmore was on the show as well, in the movie as well. So, like, what is it like to be with that much star power on set? And is it difficult to kind of like fight for your own like spotlight when there's four, I imagine, very um star heavy, like having around you at all times?
You know, I think I was lucky in that all the stars were very humble. It can be like that on set for sure, but I didn't feel that way this time. And it could have been the director and the producer because I genuinely feel like producer and the director and the lead create the
Mm,
energy of the show. And so if you've got those three things going for you, everyone else kind of just falls into their vision. And
mm,
fortunately, the director and the producer are the coolest husband and wife I've ever gotten to work with. And then Bruce himself was very he didn't want to steal the spotlight. Like he's a humble dude. At least from my experience,
mm.
he very much was wanting to bring out you and the best in you. And yeah, so I didn't experience it personally. I was also one of the only women on the set, so
Mm.
maybe they're really nice to me. But I had a fantastic experience.
They took pity on you for being.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, you are the only lady here."
Well, you play Dr. Josephs in the movie, who's obviously a doctor.
Yeah.
So the people who are there are horrible criminals. They've done horrible things. So when you're thinking about how you performed her, how do you think she separated her job to heal people with the fact that she's healing those people?
You know, it was a really funny thing that I really dug into that because I wanted to create a backstory to my character that would make her see the good in the people that might have been the absolute worst. I'll set aside that you're a doctor and it's your duty to treat anybody that walks in front of you that needs help. But I had fun creating this backstory where my brother had been killed because I had not done something at a young age to protect him. And
Mm,
so in that way, as a character, it made me empathize with these people because I saw within myself something that I hated, truly hated about my past and what I had done, even if it
mm,
wasn't my fault. And so that was something I like because the director was so open to us collaborating and improvising that I sat with a lot and really tried to bring into every conversation I had in the movie and just see them as people instead of villains.
it,
But in real life, it'd be harder.
so, I mean, in your opinion, as someone who was developing the backstory, did she then choose to work with this population, or is this the population she got stuck working with?
I chose that she chose it, and throughout the movie, started to regret that decision. And then, if you watch the movie, clearly I changed my mind about that. Uh, just because that was more fun story wise to truly, really want to be there, and then to have something happen that scares you enough that you're not sure. But yeah, I mean, that's the fun thing about acting. Some other actors could have stepped in there and it would have been totally different. There's so many ways to play a good role.
So when is Corrective Measures? I mean, it's out right now already. Where can they find it? You know,
I believe it's still on Tubi, so that's the Fox platform. I'm sure it's still there. I haven't checked recently, but I'm sure it's still there.
So what's next?
Well, who knows? Because of the writer's strike, we might be in a big pause here for a while, which I totally support. It's hard, but I believe that people aren't getting their fair due, and a lot of money is being made. But aside from that, I have a film coming out called Something New on Hallmark. Actually, I haven't done Hallmark in forever, but the script is so great. I was like, I have to do this. And we just finished filming that last week. So that comes out in June. And aside from that, we'll see. And in the meantime, starting to really dig into getting the album out and all the promo that's going to be required and setting up shows and all that fun stuff.
Well, I'm just pointing out, since I'm pretty sure you're not in the Writers Guild and you have a script you wanted to write. I'm just saying now's the time, isn't it? I mean,
well, I think so in Canada, yeah, like if I did it through Canada, but in the US, to prevent, I believe, and I might be inaccurate, but to prevent that happening, you couldn't then join the Writers Guild in the future. Yeah, so I understand why they have to do that, or a billion me's would be like, I'm here, let's go, Jimmy Fallon, like, or whatever. But it does give me time to do more writing, which is really fun because there won't be as many auditions and whatnot. So I will. I'll be ready. How's that? I'll be ready to go once it's time.
Well, Ms. Sales, it's been an absolute honor to talk with you. When you're ready to discuss your future career as a screenwriter, director, and your album, about more music, come back in the show. We'll discuss it. Yes.
Okay, that sounds
certainly.
Perfect. Yeah. I'm down. Sounds great.
Thank you so much. Have a fantastic night.
Yeah, thank you.